the MCAT Cars Podcast, session number 28. The Cars section of the MCAT gives thousands of pre-meds nightmares every night. Whether you're an ESL student, lack confidence while reading, or a slow reader like me, Jack Weston and the medical school headquarters are here to help you score higher in every section so you can be confident you're ready to get the MCAT score of your dreams. Welcome to the MCAT Cars Podcast. My name is Dr. Ryan Gray, your host here every week. And as always, I am joined by Jack Weston from jackweston.com, the MCAT Cars tutor. If you are looking for some more cars help, go to medicalschoolhq.net/Jack Weston to unlock an exclusive discount for the MCAT Cars course offered by Jack Weston. We are diving into another article today, this time all about perfectionism. Jack Weston back for some more MCAT Cars podcast. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I am good. I'm excited. I woke up this morning after like 3.5 hours of sleep because my 8-month-old didn't want to sleep. And so I'm like, this is going to be the perfect Cars recording day because I'm not going to have any brain cells left to read. And Jack is going to teach me a lot of stuff today.
And that's great because usually I recommend that you study when you're a little tired.
Yeah, because Cars isn't the last section, but it's near the end, right? It's the third section of the test.
Well, second.
Oh, that's right. Second. Yeah. And then biochem and then psych-soc.
Even if it's the first section, usually there's just this mental fatigue that hits in when you're reading these passages.
Yeah.
I mean,
fear is a strong driver of mental fatigue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then I was even more excited when a friend posted on Instagram with a screenshot of her AAMC. It looks like a QBank showing that she got 53% correct on her cars. And she is an ESL student. She's from Syria. She's got an amazing story. And she's like, thank you, MCAT Cars Podcast, for helping me with my cars prep. So I was excited.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. I love those stories. I mean, that's why we're here. We've been doing this for 10 years now because students who I believe are going to be great physicians one day struggle with standardized tests, and reading in general. And it's not fair. I think sometimes the most compassionate, intelligent students are not necessarily the best standardized test takers.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we're recording this in April. We have another course starting the beginning of May, correct?
Yeah. So we are officially launching another course, May 9, the car strategy course. The next course starts on May 9.
All right.
If you're interested in signing up. Yeah, it's going to usually May, June. That's the busy season. That's when students are really focused on MCAT prep.
Yeah. So if you want, go over to jackweston.com and check out the course and what he can help you with. Obviously, if you're listening to this, Jack is the king of cars. So I'm going to get you a shirt that says that. I'm going to make a shirt for you, Jack. How about that? All right. So let's go ahead and dive into our passage today. As always, you can follow along in the show notes. There's a link to the article. What do we have for in store today?
All right, so I think this passage resonates with a lot of students, especially MCAT students. It's all about being a perfectionist and whether or not that's good for you. And I think this helps not only with just your MCAT prep, but really your cars prep. I always tell students, look, if there's a hard question, don't be a perfectionist. This is a time to test. You don't have the luxury of looking at it for 5-10 minutes, right? And sometimes being a perfectionist can actually hurt you. We'll see what this article says about it.
All right. Again, follow along in the show notes. We'll start here, paragraph 1. When the psychologist Jessica Pryor lived near an internationally renowned university, she once saw a student walking into a library holding a sleeping bag and a coffee maker. All right. Very interesting short paragraph that is just kind of setting a scene for us and naming somebody here, a psychologist, Jessica Pryor.
Yeah, what's the scene? What do you notice here?
Oh, I notice a student going into a library. I would expect the student coming out of a library with a sleeping bag and a coffee maker, but going into a sleeping bag and a coffee maker, maybe somebody who's getting ready to go for a long study session.
Yeah, I mean I always tell students in the course, and also if you sign up for the trial session, I talk about this. It's a very important technique. When you're reading, visualize what you're reading,
Mhm.
right? Picture out the scene. Imagine what's happening. So I'm imagining a student walking into a library, whatever library, right? And they have a sleeping bag in their hands
Yep.
and a coffee maker. Why? Why would, what do you notice when you have a person with a sleeping bag in their hands, right? They're probably going to be doing a lot of work in the library, sleeping there,
Yep.
right? So maybe to show this idea that that student's going to work hard, right?
Yeah.
So that's, even though it doesn't say that directly, that's what it's trying to imply. And that's something that as a reader, you'll need to pick up on once you read the sentence. If you read this sentence too quickly, or you're not really paying attention, you're not going to get the author's point. And that's going to hurt you when you go to the next paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
All right. Paragraph 2. She's heard of grad students spending 12 to 18 hours at a time in the lab. So she, I'm assuming, is referring to Jessica Pryor, the psychologist that they mentioned in the first paragraph. And so they're just saying that this psychologist, Jessica Pryor, has heard of students spending a lot of time in the lab.
Great.
Their schedules are meant to be literally punishing. If they're scientists in training, they won't allow themselves to watch Netflix until their experiments start generating results. So talking about the students here, these graduate students, their schedules are supposed to be punishing. I'm not sure why, but and then they talk about not allowing to watch Netflix until their experiments are done or generating results.
Yeah, great. So some kind of award after you've done something good. Okay.
Yep. Quote, relationships become estranged. People stop inviting them to things, which leads them to spend even more time in the lab, end quote, Pryor told me. So this is funny. This sounds just like medical school, right? Do you want to go out? No, I'm studying. Even pre-meds, right? Studying for the MCAT. And so this psychologist, Jessica Pryor, is saying, just kind of painting a picture of what happens when these students are studying for so long.
Yeah. And I mean, the key here is sacrifice, right? You're sacrificing your social life and pleasures for work or lab time, right? And what kind of picture is the author painting here? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's bad in my mind.
Yeah, I'm asking in terms of the author's perspective. Absolutely bad. It seems like the author's painting this in a negative way. We don't know for sure. Maybe the author will go, "This is the best thing ever. This should happen all the time for everyone."
Mm-hmm.
But if you're reading it, it says punishing.
Yeah, that's the word that stood out to me as the bad word there is punishing. And the author used it specifically to say, this is not good.
Exactly. So by mentioning it's punishing, that gives us this negative connotation. Okay, well, maybe the author isn't for this.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Paragraph 3. Along with other therapists, Pryor, who is now with the Family Institute at Northwestern University, is trying to sound the alarm about a tendency among young adults and college students to strive for perfection in their work, sometimes at any cost. So it looks like Pryor and other therapists, they're saying that these college students are, again, in this negative light, using at any cost verbiage here, that we're trying to be too perfect.
Yeah, raising alarm. So again, warning us, this is not good.
Yeah. Okay. Though it is often portrayed as a positive trait, a clever response to the, quote, greatest weaknesses, quote, end quote, question during job interviews, for instance, Pryor and others say extreme perfectionism can lead to depression, anxiety, and even suicidal ideation. So they're now tying together what these consequences of perfection are, right? Depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation. And yet, they, at the very beginning of that sentence, they said, often portrayed as a positive trait, right? These students are like, I'm a perfectionist when asked during an interview, which when I'm doing mock interviews with students, they like to use that. I'm like, no, don't use that one.
Yeah, exactly. And it's showing us that perfectionism is detrimental to your mental health.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I think this resonates with many students. I mean, there are students right now studying for the MCAT, and they're worried when they get questions wrong, and that worry and that pain that getting questions wrong contains is depression potentially, right? And focusing more on the things you're weak on is going to only increase that kind of anxiety. So I think overall it's great to be on top of it. And as you know, that's what medicine's all about. You have to be very good at what you do.
Mhm.
You have to be very good at studying, but you can't let it affect your mental cognition. You can't let it affect you mentally.
Yeah. Okay. Paragraph 4. What's more, perfectionism seems to be on the rise. So they're painting a picture here that we're getting worse about this when we hopefully should be getting better. In a study of thousands of American, Canadian, and British college students published earlier this year, Thomas Curran of the University of Bath and Andrew Hill of York St. John University found that today's college students report higher levels of perfectionism than college students did during the 1990s or early 2000s. So we've given some names here, some places where they work, and just painting this picture that are giving us some data that perfectionism is increasing.
Okay.
They measured 3 types of perfectionism: self-oriented, or a desire to be perfect; socially prescribed, or a desire to live up to others' expectations; and other-oriented, or holding others to unrealistic standards. I didn't know there were 3 types of perfectionism. Now I do. So there's some definitions here. And just a little side note, Jack, when we're doing this and they really spell out like defined things here, is this something we should highlight, take note of?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would not write this stuff down,
Okay.
but you are responsible for it. They will ask questions about this. Absolutely. I think students have this sixth sense when they see a paragraph and something's difficult or something's obviously going to, be important. They have a sense, oh, wow, I need to know that, right? And that's great. And I think that's absolutely true in this case, because they will have questions about self-oriented or socially prescribed. And the way that you get around this is by trying to picture what these are, right? I mean, you don't need to write down what self-oriented is. I think most students can probably associate with one of these types of perfectionism, right? Yeah. So, for me, self-oriented or desire to be perfect, right? I think that hits a home run right now, right? But for socially prescribed, that sounds like what? That sounds like social media or Facebook or something. So you might be thinking of someone who's, really into, being perfect for other people, right? So as long as you can visualize this and not necessarily associate with it, but at least have some kind of like imagination on what this entails, I think you're going to know enough to get the questions right. You don't need to write it down.
Okay. From 1989 to 2016, they found self-oriented perfectionism scores increased by 10%. Socially prescribed scores rose by 33%, and other-oriented perfectionism increased by 16%. Wow. Okay. So they defined these 3 types, and they're showing that all 3 of them increased over this time period, with the socially prescribed increasing by a lot more than the others.
Right. Now, they won't ask which one increases by more. That's not the kind of question cars would ask, but that's a kind of question science passages may ask. So it seems like the socially prescribed is much higher, significantly increasing more than the other ones. But you should know they're all increasing. I think that's important.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Last paragraph here, paragraph 5. A person living with an other-oriented perfectionist might feel criticized by the perfectionist spouse for not doing household chores exactly the, quote, right way. I'm thinking a little self-conscious here. I think I might be an other-oriented perfectionist in some way. I'm like, my wife might say that I might do this to her sometimes.
Yeah, I think everyone can connect to some of these, right?
Yeah. That's funny. Okay, so it's interesting. So they're giving us a story or a little bit of an anecdote about one specific type of perfectionist, this other-oriented perfectionist. Quote, one of the most common things couples argue about is the proper way of loading the dishwasher, end quote, says Amy Bach, a psychologist in Providence, Rhode Island. Oh, man, my father-in-law, he's the dishwasher king. Like, if you don't do it right, he's on you. Oh man. Okay. So it looks like the author here is pointing out, talking about arguing with a spouse, with a significant other, obviously is not a good thing and potentially damaging. So they're saying that this perfectionism can not only affect your own health, like they talked about earlier, depression, anxiety, suicidality, but relationships as well.
Yeah, that's the main idea. That's the big picture. It affects you not just mentally, right? Not you specifically, but also your relationships. That's it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So hopefully this kind of helps you understand how important it is to not be a perfectionist.
I will work on it, Jack. I promise.
I think everyone wants that 4.0 or an A on that in that class, and everyone wants the highest score on their MCAT.
And the
But
perfectly
sometimes that
loaded
can work
dishwasher.
against you. Yeah. Sometimes it can work against you, right? So especially on the MCAT, I always find the students that are more mellow, the more relaxed they are, the easier they take the MCAT, the better their scores. And usually the ones that are like 4.0s, 3.9s that are really trying hard, they try too hard, and that can mentally fatigue them and get them into a bad position. So just take it easy.
Yeah, it goes back to always like slow down to hurry up, right? Kind of
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
got to take care of yourself, or else you're not going to be able to take care of anybody else. You're not going to be able to take care of your grades, your MCAT score, etc.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, there you have it. Hopefully you can take some of these skills, some of these lessons that we're learning as we're going through these articles, as we're breaking down the sentences, breaking down the words, breaking down the meanings, and helping you figure out how you can also do the same thing on your MCAT. Hope you have a great week. Don't forget to go to medicalschoolhq.net/Jack Weston. Check out the MCAT CARS course. He's got a new course launching soon. Again, medicalschoolhq.net/Jack Weston. Have a great week. We'll see you next time here on the MCAT CARS podcast.